Hello, my manhwa lovers. Today, I bring you a manhwa that many of you have requested a lot. I hope you like it. Leave your recommendations. A greeting to everyone who left a comment on the previous video. Finally, a special shout out to DarkGamer3492, who left the first comment on the last video. You were the fastest of my followers. Thank you very much. Our story begins with our protagonist, Minwu, who tells us that when he was a child, he used to cry a lot because things never turned out the way he wanted. His parents worked a lot, so they didn't care much. When his parents divorced, they almost abandoned him. He was always alone. But when his parents fought, the landlord's sister always comforted him, which annoyed him. All his friends saw her as a fool because she bought them whatever they wanted, but she didn't seem to care about that. However, to him, she stood out too much, which made him feel embarrassed. She told him that to grow up, he needed to drink her milk. He rejected it, shouting, while she wondered if it was because of the taste. He yelled at her to stop, calling her a fool. Nuna told him to come back, but he ran away, asking her not to follow him. Minwu's parents asked Nuna to take care of him, even though she was still young. He always held resentment toward his parents. No matter how harsh he was with her, his Nuna always treated him well, which made him angry because she didn't understand him. As a teenager, he wanted to become an adult and leave his neighborhood. Now he is 20 years old, and his luck is still the same. Surviving on the 500,000 won his father gives him, he never has enough to eat what he wants. His Nuna called him to let him know that the food was ready, just in time, as he was starving. He asked if she wasn't going to eat, but she simply replied that everything was fine. After finishing his meal, Minwu was satisfied with the food. His Nuna went to wash the dishes, but he shouted, telling her to wait. She turned around, confused. He grabbed her from behind, saying the dishes could wait. Whispering in her ear, he told her to wait a second. Minwu began tickling behind her ear while she laughed and told him not to touch her there. Nuna's parents had gone on a business trip, so she had become his landlord. Because of that, he was able to live there for many years. She was kind, so from time to time she would clean and cook. Many people had tried to take advantage of her since she'd become the landlord, so Nuna would go and ask Minwu for help. Sometimes she got the roles mixed up. Seeing that she was struggling a bit, Minwu decided to help her with her responsibilities. She was happy that he helped her, so she gave him a hug in gratitude. But in his head, he wondered why she was still like that despite having grown up. Maybe she was just very attached to him. On the other hand, there was someone else, someone Minwu had hated since childhood. Nuna's older sister. Her name was Nari, although sometimes he had trouble remembering it. Nari warned her sister not to be so kind to him, knowing how he was. He got angry at her for calling him Mister, even though they were almost the same age, but then calmed them down by saying the food was ready. But Nari didn't understand why they had to eat with him there. Nuna explained that it was because it was Minwu's favorite food. Nari then relaxed, saying it was her favorite too. The two of them ate while Nuna smiled. Currently, Minwu continued telling us how he had dropped out of university because he didn't want to waste his youth. Looking at his Nuna, he told her she didn't need to do that every day, but she replied that it was fine while she kept cleaning. Minwu stared at her for a moment, then he started texting his friends, asking if they had any plans for the day. One of them said he was bored and had just broken up with his girlfriend, then asked Minwu if he had one. But Minwu just said there was only one woman in his house. His friend had heard that his Nuna was very beautiful. Minwu just stared at his phone. Then, suddenly he playfully slapped his Nuna while shouting at her to go somewhere else. She replied that she was almost done there. Minwu looked at his phone, blushing a little. His friend had just sent him a religious video about a tutor. He asked Minwu if he liked Japanese mass videos and also told him that he had to get back to work. Minwu put on his headphones to watch the video. The thumbnail of the video showed a man eating his tutor's pastries. He questioned himself about doing religious things with a female tutor. In the video, the tutor was being called by someone. She asked two men if they had come to see her again. One of them confirmed, saying he had heard she was giving more private lessons. A line of men said they were counting on her. She thought it would be just for one of them, but one of them asked if she only wanted to give private lessons to one person. He added that if she didn't want rumors spreading, she had to give them something in return. They demanded that she pay her debt by giving them religious advice to cleanse their corrupt souls. One of them started eating one of her pastries, and later cleaned a chalice while performing a mass. They began using their holy water. Back to Minwu, one of his friends asked if his situation wasn't similar, but he only replied that the tutor's performance wasn't good, and that masses weren't like that. He added that the actress wasn't that pretty. His friends started saying that she was one of the prettiest, and that he would never get a girl like her. But in his mind, he wondered why he had said that when the actress was actually very beautiful. Suddenly, a scream was heard in the background. Minwu turned around to see what had happened. Nuna had tripped over the water bucket and was completely soaked. She apologized. Minwu just stared at her in shock, comparing her to the girl in the video. He was astonished, wondering if she had always been this beautiful. Nuna began taking off her clothes while he shouted, asking what she was doing. Nuna asked if she could borrow some of his clothes because she was about to start cleaning the floor. In another scene, Minwoo's friends were wondering why he hadn't responded after they sent him the video. Their names were Jung and Kim-soo. Jung said to give him time and that he would keep messaging him every day. He said it was strange that every time they made plans to go out, Minwu would use the excuse that he had no money. Kim-soo joked that maybe he had gone to a mass with his Nuna. Their friend, Kim-ina, thought that was very naughty. One of them seriously said that he would never get tired of a Nuna like her, recalling a time when she almost made his chalice appear when she greeted him. They wondered if she had a lot of experience, and admitted that one of them was jealous. They asked Minwoo's best friend, Heo Sepk, if he had any information, but Heo had a strange expression on his face at that moment. Suddenly, he slammed his glass on the table and asked them to stop saying nonsense. They wondered what was wrong with him, as he was suddenly acting strange. Heo was preparing to say something. Then, he collapsed onto the table, confessing that he had confessed his feelings to Hari Nuna. Everyone was shocked and asked when he had done it, and if Minwu knew. Kim-soo wanted to know what she had said and if they were going to date. He exclaimed for Heo to answer, but Heo just smiled. Back to Minwu, Hari called him and said she had spilled water on herself. She asked if she could borrow some of his clothes. Minwu stared at her, not knowing what to say until he shouted at her not to undress there. He turned around to find her some clothes. While searching, he wondered what kind of clothes she would wear. He didn't know why his heart was racing or why he had yelled at her. Minwu thought he should apologize and then invite her out. He returned to his room, letting her know he had found some clothes, but he was shocked to see her lying on his bed in just her outfit. All her clothes were scattered on the floor while she lay on her stomach on the bed. Minwu wondered why this was happening. His Nuna explained that her clothes were too wet, so she took them off. Looking closer, he realized she was holding his phone. He noticed she was watching the religious video he had seen. Hari pointed out that she had just found it like that. Snatching the phone from her hands, he exclaimed, asking what she was doing. Blushing, he demanded that she put on some clothes and asked what she was doing touching his things. Inside, he was worried that she had seen the messages. Meanwhile, Hari didn't know that he liked those kinds of videos. Both of them remained silent. She blushed and realized something. Minwoo's chalice had appeared. Hari wondered if it was really that big. To her, it seemed like a dream, and he was surprised by her words. Nuna had told him that when a man's soul became corrupted, his chalice would appear. When he was younger, it hadn't seemed that big to her. Minwu wanted to delete the video as quickly as possible. Hari hugged him from behind, comforting him, saying that no matter how much his chalice grew, she didn't find it strange. She also pointed out that he had grown a lot. She tried to calm him down by saying that it was normal for his soul to become corrupted, and he didn't need to feel ashamed because he could always talk to her. Minwu grabbed her hands, pressing her against the wall, asking her to wait a second. He questioned her about what she was trying to do. He asked why she was asking so many meaningless questions. Hari explained that she was just his Nuna, that she had seen how much he had grown, and that he looked adorable. He wanted to know if she still saw him as a 9-year-old child. She denied it was like that. Internally, she wondered when he had grown so much. Suddenly, they heard someone opening the door. Voices in the background joked about how their teacher had been today. When they arrived in the room, they commented that it felt like a funeral and that one of them's family hadn't come. Nari announced that they were back. One of her friends asked if anyone was there and if they could enter. She saw no reason not to, as the person who managed the rent wasn't there. One of the friends wanted to know why there were women's clothes on the floor. They wondered if Minwu had a girlfriend. But Nari denied it, commenting that he was a loser. Her friends joked that maybe he liked wearing them and teased him, telling him to sniff them like a dog. One of them complained that it had been a while since they last hung out and that they should go eat something. Meanwhile, Hari and Minwu were hiding in the closet. Nuna complained that it was too hot, and he asked her to be patient. Minwu thought about how inconvenient the situation was. She wanted to leave the closet, but he was worried that the situation would be misunderstood. Hari didn't understand what he meant, but to him, it was clear. He blushed and realized that it had become silent now. Hari hoped it would stay that way. To her, it was obvious that she and Minwu would never have that kind of relationship. But to him, this meant they could never have that together. Minwu simply responded that no matter how many times she said it, they were still a man and a woman. Hari remained silent and then asked him to check if the girls had left. Instead of doing that, he grabbed her pastries and began stroking them. She was surprised and blushed at what he was doing. Minwu wanted to know why they couldn't do those things, asking if she still saw him as a child. He didn't know why that bothered him so much. He asked her to answer his curiosity. Hari said that if he let her go, she would answer him. To her, the situation felt strange. From the living room, the noises they were making could be heard, making Nari's friends wonder what that sound was. Meanwhile, Nari ate in silence. In a past memory, Minwu was all bruised. A voice wanted to know what had happened. Another boy seemed just as hurt and was crying. His mother couldn't believe someone had beaten him up like that. She asked if he had already apologized. Another woman came and reassured her, saying that boys always fight like this. Later, Minwu was still at school, and no one had come to pick him up. They couldn't reach his parents. Suddenly, someone slammed the door open, shouting his name. It was Hari, who looked a bit tired from running. She apologized for being late and invited him to eat. In the present, they were still inside the closet. Since he was young, he had always tried to annoy her by calling her auntie. He had never seen her as a woman. Hari called out to him, not knowing if he could hear her. He meant that he had never seen her as someone he would have a mass with. She couldn't hold on any longer. She felt like her soul was becoming corrupted, but Hari didn't see it that way either. She felt as if her pride had been wounded. She continued saying that she felt like her soul was being corrupted. Hearing this, Minwu blushed and immediately wanted to know if it was because of the way he was playing with her pastries. For him, it wasn't enough. In his head, he was confused about what was happening and why he felt the same way. He wondered if it was because of his Nuna that he was feeling this way. Obviously, he was an adult now. The idea of having a mass with her crossed his mind, which made his chalice shine even brighter. He felt like his soul was becoming even more corrupted. As long as Hari kept liking it, he would continue this way. Footsteps were heard outside, alarming them. Someone was outside the room. It was Nari, who was about to enter. She called out, wanting to know if he was pretending not to be there. Minwu was afraid of being found like this, misunderstanding the situation. Nari's friend told her to stop bothering people in someone else's house. But that didn't matter to her. The house belonged to her sister. Loudly, she announced that it was her, and that she was about to kick the closet open. Annoyed, she wanted to know why he was hiding in the closet. Her friend tried to calm her down, but she kept saying that they were still pretending not to be there. The door began to open, leaving Nari surprised, wondering if it would be better to pretend she hadn't seen anything. Hari came out and greeted her. Nari was shocked to see her. Sometime later, Minwu and Hari were explaining what had happened, but they changed a small detail, saying they had gotten locked in the closet. Hari moved closer to him so he could confirm the story. Nari's friends still didn't fully believe it. Angry, Nari blamed him for everything because Hari always cleaned his apartment. Minwu didn't care about what she was saying. Nari's friends simply said goodbye, saying they would talk later. She had thought they would watch movies all night, but they just said maybe another time and left. Before leaving, though, Minwu, being a good host, mentioned that he had heard they liked a certain game. The two women wanted to know why he brought that up. He invited them to play for a bit. Moments later, the two girls were hugging him, praising his talent. Minwu simply admitted that he was very good at video games. He told them that if they ever ran into an annoying guy, they should call him, and he would defend them. Meanwhile, Hari was surprised that Minwu was so popular with the girls, which seemed to bother her a little. Nari noticed and asked why. She only commented that it was too late. Nari didn't hear her, so Nuna just said it was nothing. Both remained silent until Nari called her sister and asked if she liked Minwu, leaving Hari confused. She reminded her that earlier in the closet, she had asked if she was really changing clothes. Hari confirmed that it really was just that, and then announced that they had run out of garlic. Her sister insisted on knowing if she liked Minwu and told her not to avoid the question. Hari wanted her to think carefully, that she couldn't possibly like him. She knew something was wrong from the way she reacted. Startled, something out of the ordinary. Nari knew that it wouldn't matter if she were young because she was already an adult. To Nuna, Minwu was like someone who was part of the family, someone she liked taking care of. Nari reconsidered and now thought it would be strange for her to feel something for him, apologizing for everything. Both of them heard loud laughter, which alarmed them. In the living room, it seemed like the three of them were having fun. Nari recognized that they were enjoying themselves. One of them was holding onto Minwu's arm, what seemed to make Hari a little uncomfortable. Suddenly, she grabbed Minwu from behind and asked him to accompany her to the store. Hari was surprised. He didn't want to go at that moment, commenting that one of the friends was having a good time. This made Nuna blush and feel uncomfortable. At the supermarket, Minwu asked if he should buy garlic, which annoyed him. Hari just stared at him, remembering parts of the video. She didn't know why she couldn't stop thinking about it. He grabbed her from behind and asked the reason for her distraction. She apologized, saying she just had a thought in her head. After this, they went to eat. Minwu seemed to be enjoying his food until he spilled a little on Hari. He apologized, saying he was hungry and got careless. He grabbed a napkin and started cleaning her with it. He waved his hand over the fallen bread roll. His touch corrupted Hari's soul, making her unable to stop blushing. Minwu noticed this, and people behind them were commenting on how they could do such things in public. He asked her to stop making strange noises, and she just apologized. At night, Hari was lying in bed, wondering what had happened to her that day. Was it because of how Minwu had massaged her bread rolls? She rejected this idea, hid under the blanket, and started checking her phone, searching for the reason why she felt her soul was corrupting. She was blushing while looking at the screen. Suddenly, Nari touched her from behind, surprising her. She mumbled that she wanted more rice, but she was only half asleep, which calmed Hari down. She needed to sleep already, but something was stopping her. Since what happened in the closet, she had felt a strange sensation in her soul. She abruptly got up, thinking she couldn't take it anymore. In the bathroom, she started taking off her outfit and stepped into the shower for a quick bath. She turned on the water, soaking herself completely. Whenever she had too much on her mind, the best thing for her was to take a shower. She started remembering what had happened earlier. She wanted to know what Minwu thought of her. At that moment, he was in his room with the same thought. He didn't know why she seemed so religious all of a sudden. He wanted to go to sleep, but he remembered he needed to deliver the garlic to his Nuna. So he got up, grabbed the bag, and thought about giving it to her right then. Entering the apartment, he walked quietly to see if they had already gone to sleep. When he was leaving the things in the kitchen, he heard some noises. He turned to see what it was, noticing that someone was in the bathroom. He asked if she hadn't gone to sleep yet, telling her he had left the garlic on the table, but he was shocked to see her completely flushed, wearing her cosplay, performing a forbidden jutsu in the shower.